Incoming transmission.
Hey everybody, it's Ed. It's boosting the signal, and this week my guest is Jodi Pickens. It's not Pikens. We've established that. You had to be here for that
True.
one.
That's
Hey
right.
Jodi, how's it going? And how are you faring in this wonderful weather we're having?
It's going good. Happy to be here. Thank you. Yeah, this is a bit of a strange time for the winter weather here, even in the Midwest. So, and we're used to the cold, but this is a new level of cold. So
Now,
I'm ready for it to
hopefully,
move on.
now by the time this episode airs, hopefully the snow is gone and it's a little bit warmer.
Yes.
And if not, and if we're looking at this episode and we're talking about snow and we're looking out the window and we're seeing snow, then I feel as if we've cursed everything and
I
everyone.
do
And we
too. Oh, maybe we should have put it out there, right?
It's like I can't believe it's 75 degrees today. Um,
I'll
but
take
yeah,
that. I'll take
there you
that.
go. Oh, I'd like a good 75 degrees. But anyway, yeah, glad you're here. Glad to, as it were, meet you virtually in person for the first time. I
Yes.
it's always good to see you on Mondays and Thursdays, specifically on those days. You know, you're giving your positivity and everything else, and multitude of times with the Clonestar and everywhere
Yes.
else. Would you like to tell people where they can find you and like where are you at and how do they know you?
Sure. Right. That's so many ways, right? So yeah, I'm with the Clone Star podcast, and we're going into the fourth year as a podcast. I've been with them for I think three of those now, working on my third year, and we're a fun podcast, Star Trek themed, obviously, but also kind of represent a little bit bigger chunk of the globe because I'm obviously in the U.S., I'm in the Midwest, and then Show is out of Ireland, and Mike, who's the other host on the show, he's out of England, out of the UK. So we kind of have a little bit of an international flair at times when we want, but I enjoy that we represent kind of a big piece of fans from across the globe. But you can find Clone Star at clonestarpodcast.com. And obviously, we're on all of the socials because everyone's on all of the socials at some place. So we're all there. We're pretty active, and we put our podcast out on audio and also on video on YouTube, our YouTube channel. So I think that gives people an opportunity to listen and tune in how they like, which we love providing. But yeah, and then for me personally, I too am on all of the socials. You can find me at Jodi Pickens or jpickens01 on Instagram. And I'm on YouTube also, but it's just, I decided at the beginning of 2025 that I heard a great speech given by, I'm going to forget her name now. It'll come to me, but um, see this, I'm terrible with names, Ed. So
That's
just how
okay.
it is. But Stacey, the political person out of
Abrams,
Georgia. Thank you, Stacey Abrams.
President of Earth.
She, yes, from Discovery, right? How great was that? And she gave a podcast where she talked about filling up the space. Don't let all of the negativity take up the space. We have to fill up the space with um, some positivity and hope and things that we hold true. And I really took that to heart and decided to meet her where she put out the challenge. And so I started doing it. It started doing it with just like a check-in Thursday to just check in with the people that I have crossed paths with across my time on this planet. And it just kind of has taken off a bit. Like people seem to really responded to it and enjoyed it. And so I added some Monday mug moments where I just a little bit of silliness and fun to start off the week and feed my coffee passion. So it's just been fun to put things out there. And I also threw in Jibber Jabber with Jodi, which is a blog I write, and I try to put something out once a week there, which kind of helps fill that creativity piece for me, and also express some of my random thoughts on the world and sci-fi and pop culture and all those things. So it's a great way for me to fill my time when I'm not working with Clone Star, but also a way to kind of take Stacey Abrams' challenge of filling up that space with some positivity.
It's funny you mentioned the jibber jabber. I am very, very guilty of forgetting about the jibber jabber. I subscribed. Now this is
Oh,
this is
great.
interesting. I did subscribe, And so I would get the notifications in my Gmail when new ones would be posted. Same with like Will Wheaton's blog and stuff like that. Certain
Yes.
things, like I'm very specific on certain things that I want to be notified about. And this past holiday season, I bought myself a new phone, and I invested in a new. I had the same one for like 5 years, and since then I haven't gotten my settings right on everything. And it was recently I realized I haven't been getting any notifications on Gmail, like nothing.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
and like I went to send it last week actually to do an episode of this podcast. I went to send a link out and I seen I had so many emails. And I went, oh no. I was
Oh,
like,
no.
that's why.
There they are.
Yeah, I was like, it's so I've missed out on a lot of things. I was like, I wondered why things have been kind of quiet lately.
I know
Uh,
I look at technology sometimes it's obviously a blessing. It allows us to do things like this, obviously.
yeah.
But boy, sometimes updates or new product really can change our world really quickly.
Agreed, agreed. One thing that is nice though, I had taken the everybody has an email for their podcast specifically. I thought, well, I need to do that. I can't keep sending it out from my personal one, and I need to be
Sure.
professional. So I was creating that, and it's nice. At least when I log in, it's like, well, which one do you want to be? And I'm like, well, I have a split personality now. This is great. It's like, I've been wanting one of these. I guess I guess I don't know, but so. But yeah, it can be a detriment and it can also be a positive and stuff. And that's even
Absolutely.
even lighting. Like my wife and I were
Yeah.
watching a recent episode, and she's like, "Ask you a question." I said, "What?" And she said, "Why are you so clammy in your videos? You look so white." And I'm like, "Well, honey, I am white. I mean, she's half Mexican." And I was like, "I'm super white," And we
Right.
figured out it
So I
was the
am.
light.
Ah,
So
yeah. I have
now,
struggled with lighting. That is, just kind of one of those things you have to experiment with to figure it out. And
yeah.
some platforms it works, some platforms it doesn't. It just depends on what we're using. So I understand.
Yeah, well, that's thankfully we have the post-edit process. So
Yeah.
I can add a little bit of, color into my skin so I don't scare away the children if they're
Right.
flipping through the YouTube. But
Uh, I
but no,
love it.
I am curious. I'll ask you a question. I've been failing to ask people a lot lately, and I'll get to it. What is your Star Trek story? What brought you into Star Trek?
So that's interesting. I've been a lifelong Star Trek fan, like so many of the Trekkies out there in the universe. But um, during the pandemic, like so many others, I found myself looking to go back and just find some comfort, something like we all needed. And so I turned back to Trek, like let's do another rewatch. And I started rewatching Voyager. That's my go-to show, and followed that up with some DS9. And I was, just rewatching a lot. And I got to thinking, I wonder if other people have the same opinions I do or different opinions about these episodes. So I started scrolling through YouTube and I landed on Trek culture because they come up pretty quickly when you do a search, and just started watching some of the reviews that Sean and the rest of the crew had been doing, and I thought, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm thinking a lot like other people. This is fun, and I'd never really gotten into the fandom before that. I, just been kind of in my own little Trek world and doing that. And I was aware of like new shows and the people who were making the series and just aware of it, but I just wasn't really engaged with the fandom. And um, I remember on one of the videos Sean was doing, he made mention that, if you want to learn more about what we're all about, you can follow us. And he listed all the socials they were on. And I thought, well, I should check this out. And to say the rest is history is maybe an understatement, but the community was very welcoming. I mean, I like very quickly found people that were engaging and, just sharing similar ideas and thoughts about the franchise. And um, I ran across Show Hurley had started Clonestar podcast, and I'd run across what they were doing, and I started following them, and I was really liking what the approach that they had. And um, he kind of noticed that I was following and sharing a lot of what they were doing and asked me if I'd want to write some for their blog. And I started there. And then next thing I know, I'm doing an interview with David Mack about his release of the novel, is it Firewall, the Seven of Nine Picard, kind of her Fenris Ranger novel that he
Okay.
wrote. And then I was podcasting. And it's just kind of taken off from there. And it was something I had no idea that I was going to, get into, that podcasting, let alone specifically Star Trek podcasting, that this was going to be on my radar. So it was very organic, very not planned. I really had decided I'm a musician by trade. I've spent most of my life teaching and playing music. And um, I had kind of stepped away from that for a little bit and had started writing more. And so I really thought I was just going to look to doing, more writing. And I thought, well, the blog, writing for their blog would be fine. That didn't last long. We quickly went to conversations and interviews about Trek on their platform. And I am thrilled to be a part of it. Like Sho and Mike are their family to me now. And, it's just fun finding new ways to approach this universe that we are so gifted to have. So yeah, it was wonderful and unplanned.
Well, that's good. I like that. And I had no idea that you were a musician by trade. Now, are like as in teaching, performing, anything
Yes.
like?
So my primary instrument is saxophone, but I play all the woodwinds, and I had a private studio where I gave lessons um, to kids anywhere from starting off like probably around 10, 11 years old on up to college age. And I did that for, oh my gosh, this is going to date me, but probably for about 20 years. And then I also taught, I would get contracts with school programs to come in and help them with their ensembles and things like that. And marching band is a big thing here in the Midwest, in the state of Indiana, especially. And so that was an activity I was involved in, and chased high school kids around football fields for a lot of my years. And then I also performed. I, played with different ensembles, even a few um, bands that, were performing in the local, bars and things like that around town. So yeah, it was a very bohemian life I led, a very typical musician, I think. But yeah, education, teaching was a big part of it.
That's good. Yeah, I saxophone is not easy from what I've understood. Like my son tried to play saxophone in high school, well, middle school, and
Mm-hmm.
I think if he would have stuck with it, he would have been fine, but he also didn't have the breath for it.
Mm.
And I think that was the biggest detriment for him. And the first thing I think about when you mention saxophone and I see Voyager on your shirt, I think about
Oh,
Harry Kim when he
yes.
switched to the saxophone towards the later years of Star Trek Voyager. I just watched, it's not, I just watched Workforce recently, but I think it was the episode previous to Workforce. He was playing the saxophone in that one. I've been trying to
Yes.
finish up my Voyager rewatch because I
Yeah.
wanted to do that for the 30th anniversary, and I'm at the tail end, and I want to start doing Enterprise for the 25th.
Yeah.
I was gonna do it. I thought about reviewing every episode, but everybody and their brother is doing that, so I don't want to do that. Like I'm trying to
Sure.
stay in my own lane, as it were. I don't want to,
Sure.
but
Well,
but yeah, I dig the saxophone. I really do. That's great. And
yeah.
I've known a few people that played it, but not me,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
It's all good. It's not too bad. I've enjoyed my time playing, and have actually been thinking about picking it back up again a little bit. Sometimes, it's kind of like riding a bike. You get a little itch to give it another go. So we'll see.
Okay, so here's the thing. Have you ever attempted to do like the Voyager soundtrack or sound
Oh, like any of
theme?
the
Yeah,
Star Trek stuff?
like
No,
in
I
a
haven't.
saxophone, I mean, honestly, that would be a hell of a post, Imagine
That's
covering it.
true. Oh, I'll make that. I'll put that in my notes. Maybe that'll
I,
be something
yeah,
to
no
do.
one's allowed to
Uh,
take that. No one's allowed to take that idea. That's a
I'll give
good
you
idea.
credit for the idea. That'll be great.
But no, that's good.
Yeah.
No, I love the Clone Star podcast. I didn't really get into Clone Star until, oh, probably early 2025, maybe
Okay.
late 2024. I discovered you guys. And it was, I don't even know how it happened. Maybe to take from your Trek culture, it was just natural. I just come
Yeah.
across you. And the interviews were good. And I really enjoyed that. And then I really it got my attention when they interviewed, I know you weren't there, but when they interviewed Spencer Garrett last year,
Yes.
and
Yes.
because I had already known that I was going to have him on mine, and
Awesome.
I'm like, but so I'm like, so how long did it take you? And they're like, oh, we had to wait a year, and I was like, okay, okay, but so, but I was wondering, and so I was like, all right, now I don't want to step on. I'm always about not stepping on toes.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Sure.
So I was like, all right, I'm gonna hold off because we recorded ours early November,
Hmm.
and I was like, so I held off, and because I don't want to step on toes, and I see things like
Yeah.
I see it, so like I try to follow now. I'm more engaged in following, so I don't want to repeat guests. I don't want to repeat ideas. I see too many people being accused of plagiarism within the community, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's
It's
like
hard. I mean, and I appreciate that you're aware of what other podcasts are doing. I think that's so important um in what we are doing. The fandom is is plentiful in people trying to get out there and put things out, and I think that's wonderful. I think that's part of what makes Trek so unique. Maybe sci-fi in general. Star Wars does a lot of that too, but I think it's important too that we support each other rather than compete against each other, because our intentions are all the same, is to just lift Trek and kind of bring our own perspective to the franchise and what's happening in the Star Trek universe. And I think everybody has a unique opinion and perspective, and there's room for that. I think it's great that you looked at what we were doing with Spencer Garrett, and when you're reaching out to people affiliated with Star Trek, it's about timing. Whether you
yeah.
could talk to them one day and the next day they have a gig and things change, or their schedules obviously are important. So yeah, I think it's just about timing and, like you said, respect and awareness. And I think that's so critical to what we're doing, um, as fans, but also as podcasters or people out there being creators and delivering content. We have it's important that we stay aware of each other and lift each other up when we can.
I've also find it's important to remember what questions people ask other people so that you're not asking the same ones, because I mean it's like you want to come at it from a different angle. I don't like, let's say you had been interviewing someone and said, well, tell me about your love of coffee. It's like I'm
Right.
not going to ask you about coffee, because but
Right.
and if anyone's ever asked you about saxophones, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, no, actually, not a lot of people I think in the Trek world know that about me. So you kind of got a little bit of a scoop on that. So that's good.
Well, that leads me to my next question, and this is one of my absolute favorite questions when it's about getting to know people, and that is this. What is one thing that it could be collect, like, love, enjoy, part of your life, whatever, that would surprise people that don't know you as well as your closest people? Like, what's something
Mm.
that, is Jodi that people go, I had no idea, other than saxophone?
Other than saxophone, oh, now you're gonna put me in a corner. Well, I think maybe I collect a lot of the starships around Trek, especially, but obviously some Star Wars too. But um, and I think a lot of starship collectors do those because they like the technology or the makeup of those ships. For me, the ships are characters, just as important and
Sure.
equal to the people playing those characters on board those ships. So to me, they're part of the story, and I think it sets me apart. I think a little bit from what other collectors do uh, with the Starship collection and why they exist. But that probably sets me apart a little bit. But maybe something people don't really know about me. That's interesting. Um, I don't know. the saxophone thing really trumped me because that was my ace in the hole for that one.
Oh yeah, I went too fast on that one. The Starship thing though is really good. I like your analogy of it and how they are characters. It brings me back to those. We've all seen these posts recently of it may not be my house, but I know my way around posts that I keep seeing, and it's very accurate. Like if I were to close my eyes, I could describe to you probably every ship or space station that we've ever seen in Star Trek because we've lived it so much. It's like
Hmm.
we have gone there and we've visited, and I get that. It's like a second home. And in some cases a character. It's like and I hate to use that again, but like the Enterprise when she was
Yeah,
destroyed in Star Trek 3, it was a death. That's not just something that was sacrificed, it was a death.
right.
And so yeah, that's a really good
Yeah,
analogy about a character. I appreciate it.
yeah. I just, for me, I talk a lot about the characters of Trek and their storylines and arcs and all of that, and that's kind of where when I watch a show or a series, that's what I'm taking from it is understanding each of those individual people that they're playing. And to me, like I don't think I could watch Voyager and not think of Voyager, the ship itself,
Mhm.
as a part of that Voyager family that was it too was stranded in the Delta Quadrant, and it was such an important piece of their journey, not just physically transporting them, but it was their home.
Oh yeah.
And I think that we can say that about Discovery, we can say that about the Enterprise D. I mean, we can say that about all of the ships, and I think that even breaks down to our space stations and um, even to the shuttlecraft. Like, I don't think we can look at the Delta Flyer and not think that that wasn't an important piece
Which
of
one? They blew it up a couple of
right,
times.
right. There was something about they could just rebuild those like nothing out there
Well,
in the
maybe
Delta
that was their
Quadrant.
answer as to why there were so many shuttlecrafts on the Voyager. It's like, oh, we
Right,
we we destroyed that last week. Even there was even a throwaway line once, like the last time you took it out, it came back in pieces, and it's like
right,
you brought it, you it came back. So I don't know. There's so many shuttles
right.
on that ship.
So many, but I loved it. I love that they, you know, that's the beauty of Star Trek. I think sometimes is that there are just these moments where, like, everybody's getting hurt or killed in a shuttle accident. Why do we have so many shuttle accidents? What about this universe causes that to happen? But yeah, it's
Or
just fun that
Uhura's
they.
family. I mean, Uhura lost her
Yes,
entire family in a shuttlecraft accident. I'm thinking, and it was on Earth.
right.
How? Like
And like,
does that tell me
were they
they're still
not
bad? Yeah, bad drivers.
right? Bad drivers, or there's nobody doing maintenance on these? And why aren't we using the transporter system on Earth? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just, I don't know, it raises questions, but it's just kind of my running internal joke about Trek is that somebody gets hurt or unalived, it's because of a shuttle accident 90% of the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When you talk about character development, has there ever been a favorite character of yours that you believe has had the absolute best arc of any
Oh my.
other, if you could choose one. Now, I always have my go-to answer, and I'm willing to give it if you need some time to think. But if you've got
Well,
yours,
I've got mine. It's my go-to answer, and I don't think it'll be anyone's surprise, but it's 7 of 9.
okay.
Um, so obviously the Voyager arc is pretty impressive in seasons 4 through 7, but then when 7 returns in Picard, that was I tell people that was my like Super Bowl win moment was watching that episode and seeing 7 beam aboard the La Serena and being like, I mean, jaw dropped, show paused, like shocked and dismayed and excited at the same time that we got to see Seven's story continue. And I think her arc is one that so many people relate to from Voyager on. And I love that the return in Picard brought her out to new audiences. Like there's a whole younger audience that had never gone back and seen Voyager, didn't know about Seven's or hadn't seen Seven's story. And now it's been fun to see that happen in the fandom where a younger audience has gone back and watched Voyager and is seeing Seven's story from the beginning. But her story is important to me. It resonated with me as a someone who was watching it in real time back then in the '90s, and I really connected with her story of trying to fit in and overcome the uh, Borg technology that she was forced into. It just really just resonated. I guess I keep going back to that, but it resonated with me, and I felt like I was seeing someone telling a story that I could relate to on screen and in a show in a series that I enjoyed. And I think we look for that as people. We want to see something of ourselves sometimes in these characters, and I definitely got that with Seven, and so I felt that connection to the character. And then you couldn't. I mean, Jerry Ryan, she's just a great person. I think off screen too, and she's uh, vocal about her beliefs and thoughts about the world, and I really respect that. And I think she just also brought more to that character than I think anyone expected, because her performances really are memorable for many of those episodes. And so yeah, and then being able to see her storyline continue in Picard as someone who's very close in age to Jerry Ryan, that I loved seeing women of a certain age being represented again in the franchise, and not in a specific role. I mean, we saw that with Seven of Nine in Picard. We saw that with Rafi in Picard. Then in season three, we finally, and season three of Picard, we got to see Dr. Crusher return, and so I think they just all got to play roles and play their characters in a way that wasn't stereotyped, and I really appreciate that.
That's a really good way of looking at it. I like the analogy of the people of a certain age being portrayed. I get that, and it's not something I really thought about at the time. I think it's more or less come to me rewatching Voyager and the journey for Seven, and seeing how she has gone from one expectation of her character into what she does become. And it proves, even up until the final moments of that series, it was not her final form. Think of her like a Pokemon,
Mm-hmm.
she has yet to evolve. And it just, I guess it really goes to prove that people, you know, are constantly evolving. And that's not to
Yes.
say that even Captain Seven of the Enterprise is not her final form. No matter what a memorable memory wall on Starfleet Academy says, you know, I don't think that that's her end. And I'm really hoping to see more, even in any type of media, be it novelization, comic books, animated, or live action. I'll take it. Um,
Yes.
but it's good, especially with Raffi. I need to see more Raffi.
Oh my gosh.
I really started to become a real fan of Michelle Hurd. I mean, I loved her as Raffi. Don't get me wrong, but when watching the strikes in
Oh,
2024, I think I became a fan of Michelle Hurd. She showed up. She was there, same
yeah.
as Jerry Ryan, same as Todd Stashwick, same as a litany of other people that were constantly out there. And it was, walking the picket lines and stuff. But not only that, but one line resonated with me. One, not even a line, one phrase resonated with me. And she said, to all of the billionaires and millionaires sitting in their houses that aren't out here, we're still doing this for you. And it was like, I love that. So I
Yeah,
like,
she's a force. I love that. And we can say this about a lot of our Trek actors and directors and producers and people involved in the franchise. But, they really showed what it means to be a force, not only on screen but off screen. And I think, Michelle Hurd has had a long career in the industry, and when she said things like I am a working actor, like I there have been times where I'm like hoping to get enough work to get my insurance. Like that's who I am. And we see them as, I think as viewers, we tend to have a skewed vision of what Hollywood and in the entertainment industry has looked like. And I really believe that this last strike that happened in 24, that it really shed some light on what that world really is, and that not everyone is living in mansions or making enough to even have their health insurance, and that I think is very relatable to
Yeah.
a majority of people in this world. And yeah, I have a lot of respect for her, not only for wow jumping into the franchise as Rafi Musiker and playing against some of the biggest hitters in the franchise during
Yeah.
that series, and bring a new character to life that I think again was fresh and um, had a serious history and story to tell, and just really wow brought something to that role that just never let up. And then obviously in the third season of Picard, when Rafi is partnered up with Worf, I mean, that was just magic. That was fantastic. So yeah, I think we're lucky as a fandom to have so many great personalities out there, uh, representing themselves not just as the characters they played in the franchise they've been involved with, but also just good human beings trying
Yeah.
to be out there and make a difference. And I have a lot of respect for that. I think sci-fi is sometimes unique in that they're not afraid to be outspoken, because a lot of sci-fi is representing a different future. And um, I think we all want to see us sometimes head in that better direction.
I think in my way of looking at it, I've always kind of thought of I'll use Todd Stashwick as my best example, and that is, to me, he reminds me of uh, he's probably the kind of guy that played, Han Solo as a kid out on
Yeah,
the playground, in school, and then I was like, oh, I want to grow up. I want to be Han Solo. I want to. So he
yeah.
got into acting for that. I can't speak to him. I can't speak to that fact, but that's the feeling I get. He gives
Hmm.
off that aura of, he's grounded, and also to touch on what you said about, there's so many actors in Hollywood that, like I've said to people before in the past, it's like they do work check to check, paycheck to paycheck
Hmm.
in many regards. They're not living in big homes. Without giving anything away, I have been privy of seeing a friend of mine who is in the business. I have seen her residual check for a couple of movies that she has done. And it's nothing, like I've seen my wife bring home more on her paycheck than that residual check. So I completely understand why it's a struggle. They are the legitimate hustlers of the business, because they're out there. They gotta, if you're not a classified person, like, or like in a classification, like let's say Tom Cruise, who people are going to come to for something, then you got to hustle, and I respect it. I really do.
I do
Um,
too.
but yeah, wow, on that one.
It is, but I think it's an important thing for us to acknowledge. Like, we even just in the Trek universe, it's important to see that, these people acting and directing and writing and working on these sets, it's a job for them. It's a career field,
Yeah.
and uh, there's more to life than just being on Star Trek, and that can for a
What
lot
what
of
what
them
what
just
what?
right. I know, right? What have I just said?
I can't believe you. No,
Right? How dare I? But
well,
I
given the
do
opportunity,
love like
I was like,
you,
I'm
you
going.
brought up you brought up Todd Stashwick, and I think it's fun to see so many of um, the actors and people involved with Trek be true. Like they're fans. They have not maybe just of Trek, but of sci-fi, or some of these things that we all tend to love outside of Trek. And I love seeing that. I mean, look at Jonathan Frakes. He knows Trek inside and out, and he when he directs, it's some of our favorite episodes,
Yeah,
in these different franchises. And I think we're starting to see that with Tawny Newsome, who's getting involved in writing and producing some here on Starfleet Academy. So these are the people I'm excited to see get more involved. And I love that Stashwick is, we're going to see him in some Marvel
Yep.
series
Vision. He'll
coming
be
up.
on the Vision.
Vision,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, that's got to be a dream come true for a kid who is just as much of a nerdy geek as the rest of us. And I love that. And I love that these are the people getting more involved in creating and making these shows come to life for us.
I have you ever had anyone like I'm sure people that are around you know you love Star Trek, but do you ever get people that are just you know just tangentially think, oh, everything is Star Trek, so they get you something that's Star Wars, or they're like, this has been happening to me in my past, and I brought this up to a few other people. It's like, hey, I know you like that Darth Vader. Here's a new,
Yeah.
Star. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Star Wars as much as the next person, but it's not like I can't. I can look in any direction. I can see Star Trek, except maybe that
Right, right.
over there. But, um, but, but
It's interesting because I think a lot of people were surprised when I started doing the Star Trek podcast because um, Star Wars had always been kind of our connection, before that. But even though, like I said, I huge fan of. I probably watch them both equally, and they're probably even more so Star Trek because growing up for me, because I'm a dinosaur, that there was a lot more of this series. There wasn't a lot of Star Wars series before, this 21st century. So I think it's been an interesting shift because I get a lot of from my family and friends like, so what brought up the Star Trek thing? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I was 3 years old watching reruns in front of the TV when I was a kid. Like that, I've been, it's been around. I just haven't really had the opportunity to talk to everybody about it, maybe to the extent that I am now.
No, I get that. I've talked about in the past. I grew up without having anybody in my life that was. I mean, my grandmother and my grandfather were very influential in me becoming a Star Trek fan and everything in general. But the I didn't have people to talk Star Trek to until 1994, which I am old as well. In 1994, a friend who was actually a cousin at the time by marriage had brought home her new boyfriend, and she's like, "You're gonna love him. He saw that new Star Trek movie." I was like, okay, that's why, but all right. But she was right. He became one of my best friends. I had somebody to talk to, and of all things, like Star Trek Generations had just come out, and like I was like, "Oh, did you notice the bathlet behind on the wall in Kirk's cabin?" And he was like, "Did," and I was like, "All right, we're friends." It's
We're
like,
friends. We can.
but for the most part, that was the only thing. But he's a very casual Star Trek fan. It was
Yeah.
never, anything like the crazy level of myself. Um, and I tried to get my son into Star Trek. I tried to do the whole, like, hey, we should watch this. Now to his credit, he loves Battlestar Galactica, and
Nice.
what else is he loved Warehouse 13
Yeah.
and stuff like The Walking Dead, but we don't really have a Star Trek connection. Now his husband is kind of the opposite. Like if he comes over, I can talk Star Trek with him. So it's
Nice.
a
It worked
balance.
out a little
Yeah,
bit. Yeah.
it's a balance. Like, all right, you married a good one,
That's right. Peacekeeper.
but
We're gonna stick with that one. Thanks.
well, speaking of other shows like Battlestar Galactica and everything else, outside of Star Trek, what is a fandom that you are like passionate about that maybe you have something on a shelf that would see it and go, well, what's that blue box? Or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, I mean it definitely would be Star Wars would definitely rank right up there because I mean I've got Millennium Falcons and at sitting around here too. So but I
I love that
do
you
like
called it
yeah
an AT-AT.
yeah it's a family thing. We joke about that a lot. But it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy like sci-fi has always been a big part of my world. So all of those shows you mentioned, Battlestar and Stargate is another one that I yeah really into. Um, but I would real honestly say that from a fandom standpoint, I mean, I'm deeper in Star Trek than I've been in any of the others. But that's the beauty of people who are fans of Trek. They tend to really enjoy a lot of the other same and similar shows that I do. And I'm lucky to have a wife that also doesn't mind my sci-fi passion. So,
It helps.
yes, it does. It does a lot. So that's been nice. And she watch shows and go to movies and all of that. So, and enjoy it too. I mean, when we went, graduated from high school and we're going to college, that's just when TNG was starting out. So, uh, TNG as a series was really a big part of our college experience because, we would videotape shows, and when we had a break, we would go back and watch what we hadn't seen yet. So it's, yes, the VCR was the thing back then. So
No, I get it. I was one of those kids that would like when it was on, if I didn't have a remote, my finger was on the VCR hitting
yes,
pause when it went to commercial and unpause. And it was like, is this a transition scene? Is this a commercial? It's like, oh, that paused at the wrong time. You
right,
know, I lived through that. And one of the saddest moments in my entire life, and I truly mean this, was throwing away all those VHS tapes because they were
oh
30 some odd years old. And I'm like, I have it on Blu-ray, I have it on DVD, I have, but like, dude, what do I do with these? Like, am I
right,
gonna watch these? Am I gonna stream it?
right.
But I did it, and I remember telling my son, like, take these, you get rid of them. I can't do this.
Hmm.
Like emotionally, I can't do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're tied. Like those are core memories for us, I think,
Yeah.
of those times. And it's how we were able to rewatch episodes back then. We didn't have, I mean, if there's a perk to the streaming and digital uh ways of getting entertainment, that is it. Like I can at any point in time watch any of these shows that I'm attached to. And I love that.
Yeah, I do too. When I was younger, when I was a kid too, we didn't have a VCR, like long before the VCR, but my mom had gotten me a tape recorder. So like
Oh yeah.
I would hit tape record the audio so I could go back and listen to episodes and things. And I would lay in bed, so it's like they're there, like
Yes.
we like to play a game around here. Like I'll tell the wife, turn on Pluto, whatever's on. I'll close my eyes, I won't look, and let's see if I can tell you what episode it is, the season it is, and everything else. I've gotten a few wrong. I'm not as good as I think I am,
Oh,
but sometimes I get it. I'm like, yeah, that's right. It's a power, but
it is a skill. It's a
it,
definite skill that you should.
it should
I am
be.
not that good at it. That is one of my weaknesses. I'm terrible with episode names. I'm pretty good about getting it in the vicinity of where it took place, in the series. But I'm really glad that Show Hurley from our podcast is great at episode names. So he is always there in my back pocket for to pick up where I falter on that.
It's always a little more difficult with the newer shows when most of them are in
Mm.
Latin, and you're like,
Oh yes.
and I was like, I don't know my Latin, But my favorite title of all, it's so weird it sticks with me. It's from Discovery season 1. And it's The Butcher's Knife Cares Not for the Lamb's Cry, and I was like, why is that stuck in my head? But
Right. It's such a they had very unique episode titles in
very
that
much so.
series. And I mean, you go back now and you're like, "Oh, I get it. I get why
Yeah,
that's there now." But
I've
yeah, when they
cons-
were first dropping, you're like, "Ooh, what is this about?"
I've considered a Discovery rewatch. I bought season one, two, three, and that's it on Blu-ray. I need to buy four, and then I won five from Larry Nemechek, which back in October, and
Nice.
he still hasn't sent it. But we're
It'll get
recording
there.
this at the end of January, and I still won't have it. Larry, I'll give him crap for it later, but that's okay.
Oh,
Um,
I love that. I
he'll
love
be on
it.
the podcast in 2 weeks, or will have
Nice.
already been by the time this airs. But
Sure.
but yeah, it good titles. I need to rewatch. I've got a whole section over here. And you talked about Stargate. I have Stargates right in front of me. I have like my wife works at a thrift store. It's like a Christian thrift
Mm,
store, and so they can't sell. They don't sell Star Trek stuff or anything that's R-rated or PG-13. So it gets put aside, and she knows what I love. She knows what I love.
She
And,
knows.
and so she keeps an eye out for it. And one day, it was like, oh man, 5 years ago, she came home and she's like, I found something you might like at work and I bought it. And since they can't sell it, they either throw it away or she can buy it for a
Oh,
quarter. So she bought it for a quarter. And it's the full, all 10 seasons of Stargate SG-1 in the box with the gate on the front of it.
oh, wow. Okay.
Got it for a quarter. I was
That's
like,
insane. Yes, that was a perfect thing to buy.
yeah, so
Well
it's
worth
it's a
all
it's on
25
display.
cents.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
And
fantastic.
oh, this past Christmas, she got me all the Christmas ornaments. Like, I don't know if you saw my post of all the ornaments that she had got me,
Yes.
and it was like those were a quarter. So I was
Oh,
like,
that's awesome.
yeah, I mean,
You can't
I
be
love.
you can't be mad about that. That's a perfect way for things to happen.
I'm not mad, but then I always stop and think I'm sad about the people that are getting rid of them, and I think
Mm,
it's either someone has passed away or something of that effect, and I feel a little heartbroken, but then I think there's an individual I talked to one time here on the podcast said something that has stuck with me, and that we are just, how did he put it? We are just holding on to things until the next owner. Where it's like we don't
yes.
truly own it. We're curating it for someone else. And like I've told her, and this is morbid, but like if something ever happened to me, I've told her, I said, reach out to the fandom, let people
Yes.
know, and everything I have, give it to them. Don't
Right.
sell. Just give it to
Just give
them.
it. Yeah. I
Because
think
they're
that's such an important thing. And I've seen this from other fans when they post like, somebody sent this to me because a loved one has passed away, or, that they're like, they wanted it to go to someone who would appreciate it. And I think if that means we find it in a thrift store, or, you know, uh, it's gifted to us in some way, then you know what? It is
yeah,
about just keeping that appreciation alive
yeah.
for not only the franchise but what other fans appreciate. So I love that idea. I think it's poignant and perfect.
It's a really good way to look at it. I mean, there's too many things that get lost, and
Oh my
through
gosh.
through time. And how many times have I heard Rod Roddenberry talk about, he doesn't have this model, or
Oh my
think about the
gosh.
Enterprise model that was missing for many years, and it's someone has something out there. There's always somebody has
Yes.
something. So,
Yes.
but
I was you talked about that Roddenberry Enterprise and that whole kind of scenario and story that went down, but it's I think that's one of the things that's surprising to me, and I think it always becomes a point of discernment for the fandom. But like when these shows end, not everything is kept or passed along, and I obviously that's been happening since the very beginning, for 60 years now we can say. But I'm glad that things like that Enterprise have been found and kind of put where they belong. And I wish that we had more preservation for some of this stuff.
yeah, well, and that's like thinking about Voyager.
Mm,
I look at your shirt and I think about how there's so many Voyager scripts that were not kept, and the Voyager scripts were just thrown out. Sure, you can find Discovery and or not Discovery, but Next Generation and DS9 and so on and so forth. But I'd recently found
yeah.
out, how the Voyager scripts were thrown out. I was like, why? I mean, these are, but
Right.
not everything can be kept, I guess. And there's always
Not
people.
everything. Yes.
I'm looking across, and I'm thinking about the movie La Bamba. And this is a weird transition, but think about the movie La Bamba if you've ever
Okay.
seen it, and how Bob, Richie's brother Bob, finds all of the Woody Woodpecker drawings and the easel and everything else in the garbage when he's working as a garbage man, and he brings it home and he sees, you'll draw this and win $500, and he wins $500 in art equipment. Sure, that's fine, but he was able to transition that into something else that helped his family. And it was just something that was being thrown away, but it was given a new life by Bob. And I always think about that scene in La Bamba. I always think about that. It caused me recently, we watched La Bamba recently again because we do all the time, but my wife had bought it on VHS, And so we hook up the VCR and we got to play it, and and I'm thinking about that, and I looked up Bob, and I seen that Bob just passed away a few years back, and he ended up living
Mm,
one hell of a life. And I think maybe it was that moment. He sure he didn't stick with art so much, but he did design stuff on motorcycles. He used his art talents in a new
right.
way. Maybe that wouldn't have happened if he wouldn't have found someone throwing a piece of garbage away. And I just, to me, I try to think everything has a story, and I don't believe that there
Mhm.
is truly garbage. There's always a story that needs to be seen, found, and told. So, and
Yes, so perfectly said. It really is. And I think, they've said, my dad used to say this a lot, but like one man's uh, junk is another man's treasure. And
yeah,
and yeah, he was a car guy, my dad. So he
so is my
um
father.
oh nice. Midwest dads,
Yeah,
right? I
there
mean,
you
yeah.
go. Yeah, did your dad do like swap meets and stuff like that? My dad was a
Um,
swap meet and car, like go
oh
there sell
yeah.
car parts.
Yes. My dad worked in the industry, so he was a parts manager at car dealerships his
Okay.
entire career. So, but yeah, like there was always some car project going on at the house in his garage, and it was just, we grew up with cars, and unfortunately for him, he had two daughters. So, but by the time we were in high school, we were like the only girls in the class who knew how to change tires and oil and all of that stuff. So there are perks to having a dad that was into cars for sure. But
Well, that's
but I
good.
do agree with you that it matters. Like I think, you know, it goes back to kind of my philosophy too, that everything has a story to tell. And
Yeah.
uh I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. That's why I really enjoy your content too. Like the, talking about the different figurines, the Funkos and, the Playmates and all of that. I think it's good for us to see that because we can't all have it all. Like, right. And
Right.
you do the cards, the trading cards, like, oh, I have to fight myself not getting involved into the Star Trek trading cards because it would just be I'd be a monster because I used to collect sports cards as a kid. Like,
Yeah.
was really into that, and now I'm like, oh, don't do it, Jodi, don't do it.
No, I'm the same way. I had a vast collection of baseball, football, Garbage Pail
Yeah.
Kids. Now I do have some of them did fall the way of the dinosaur due to an evil entity I come across about 26 years ago called the ex-wife. Um,
Yeah.
but um, but unfortunately, I was able to defeat this evil entity. And some of them, some of them remained in my collection. I recently I occasionally I will buy football cards,
Hmm.
especially Chicago Bears. I'm a Bears guy. So
Yeah.
yeah, I gotta when Bears were having a good season, I wanted to pick up, some of the Loveland and Caleb
Oh
Williams
yeah.
cards. I was like, gotta have them, gotta have those rookie cards just in case. And they were going for $1. I'm like, yeah, I'll pick them up for $1. Um,
Yeah.
one of my prized possessions is a Caleb Williams rookie signed by Caleb.
Nice.
Um, but the Star Trek cards, yes, more expensive. I have each right now, do I? No. But I have a good friend named Jason who I've been trying to get to come on the podcast for like literally he was supposed to be my first guest.
Okay.
I wanted him to set the tone because he has always been my biggest cheerleader aside from my wife, and he had like we'd met tangentially through the internet, and like he ended up coming over from Washington State and visiting one time, and he had brought me an entire box of Star Trek Beyond cards from
Oh,
Rittenhouse
nice.
and not opened. And he's like, let's just rip them open and find out what we see. I ended up getting a Carl Urban autograph and a whole bunch of really nice cards, but he got me hooked on these cards. And I'm like, now I realize, do you know how expensive these damn things are? It's like, so
Oh,
so I would try to find the cheaper cards that I could afford. I was like, let's do the trading card Tuesday. Let's open them up. And
oh, I love that. It's one of my favorite things you do. It really is because it just appeals to my trading card soul that still exists. But I can't have those packages start showing up at the house, or my wife is going to be like, seriously, enough.
Yeah, no, I get that too. I'm like right now, I'm sharing individual cards. That's gonna just until 1st of March. I got something planned for the 1st of March, which
Awesome.
so by the time this airs, it's already happened. But
Excellent.
um,
Excellent.
March 16th is what I consider my anniversary for My Figure Universe because like that March 16th will begin the 4th year I've been doing the My Figure Universe. And so I try to always celebrate that and consider that a season premiere. I've kind of augmented my look a little bit here recently, but I think things need to change
Yeah, we
sometimes.
evolve, right? Like you
Yeah,
said, we got to keep
yeah.
evolving.
Um, and then even like with the boosting the signal, I wanted to make this a second season, try and give it a different look, different feel. So,
Yeah,
eh,
I think that's important. We have to do that as, people out there making content or podcasts. I think, it's about keeping things fresh and interesting. And it's also for us, if, a lot of creative types in this world, beyond like our amazing cosplayers and things like that. But
oh
I
yeah.
even know for, Mike Overton on our podcast, he is a designer, and it, for him, it's, a way of not only giving us a fresh look, but it's, a means of his creativity and expression. So I love that. I mean, I'm a creative at heart too in my own way. So I love that we can do that and keep expressing what we want through this uh, podcasting and Trek universe. I love that.
Sometimes the most difficult thing I think is holding on to a good idea
Yeah.
and like, okay, I've got this. Should I implement this change now? Do I wait? Is someone else going to think of this? So
Right, right.
and
That's the that's the
I
hat
worry about
trick.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I worry about somebody thinking of the same way as I do, and I'm like, oh, I don't need that, and um, and even like I said, and it comes back around to guess, like I'd seen Captain's Quadrant, another podcast is out there. They end up having a guest that I had already interviewed the day before, and they're like, they're going to interview. I'm like, and they got their episode posted before me, and I thought, it's like, all right, now I look like I'm stepping on toes, and I'm like,
I
no,
think, everybody brings their own spin to those
yeah,
things. And I
oh yeah.
think that's what we have to keep in mind, and that, um, we're all individuals at our core. And so we've got our own way of, presenting or talking to these people, even if it's the same people. And I think that's okay, that it keeps variety in our fandom. And I like that.
I'm trying my best. I wanted to, I want to highlight, a little bit of everybody, like
Yeah.
I'm called in favors with friends, for certain guests, but it's like, like for the most part, I wanted to just highlight people that weren't getting all the attention. Or, I mean, sure, you're out there every week and your content is there, but I wanted to get to know you. It's
Sure.
like, sure, we could know the Clone Star, but let's get to know Jodi. So,
I love that. I think that's unique too, because there's not a lot of that happening either. I mean, we get bits and pieces from a lot of these folks, but we don't get to really know kind of who they are, what makes them up. And so I think that's great that you're doing that.
trying my best. Trying my best.
We'll keep
Well,
doing it,
Jodi,
Ed. We
I
need
think we're
it.
going to wrap up. Our time is really coming to an end, but I do want to say again, thank you so much for being here. Everybody needs to give you a follow. Of course, check out the Clone Star podcast and check out Jodi online, all the socials, which will be on the screen. It'll be at the end of the episode and down below. But yeah, thank you so much for your time and thank you for coming
Thank
on
you.
here. And I really look forward to everything that's coming the rest of the year from Clone Star and yourself, and every Thursday and Monday. And I'm gonna make sure I turn on those email notifications. So
I appreciate it. And thanks for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
you're very welcome. Thank you.